Hey guys, Meteorologist Chris Tomer here with this morning mountain weather update. Let's go to radar first. So waiting on our storm system coming out of the Four Corners. This is the one that's going to set up here in Colorado and produce a lot of mountain precip. Now, the track has shifted to the south slightly, so that takes some of the heaviest precip belt and kind of shifts it a little bit further to the south, but still looking at a moist storm system. And it's going to rain in some areas for about 24 hours across Colorado, and it is going to be mountain snow. Here's what I'm expecting. So it really moves into Colorado this afternoon, tonight, and Sunday morning. That's really the key time frame. Storm track has shifted a little bit to the south. I'll show you exactly what that means in a second. Snow level is going to start high, no surprise. This time of the year, air temps are still warm. There's still a lot of warm air stuck in some of the valleys. And it'll start at 12,000 feet, so tree line in Colorado. Then during the course of the storm, it's going to drop to about 10,000 feet. So all the 13ers and the 14ers should get heavy snow accumulation out of the storm system. Now, I put an asterisk by that because I'm going to show you a freezing level forecast chart. And the asterisk is for Denver and the Front Range, because a lot of the time what happens is cold air likes to sit, it's very dense, and it's actually going to spill down the Front Range with a cold front. And the freezing levels across Denver, the Front Range, the Palmer Divide, Colorado Springs are actually going to be lower down here than what it's going to be up in the mountains. So I'll show you those in just a second. All right, let me take you to water vapor satellite imagery, and I want to show you how things actually look on water vapor. So here's the latest on this. Reds and the oranges are your drier air aloft. Your moisture is in your whites and your blues, and there's our area of low pressure right there. So again, it's going to track through the Four Corners and then set up around Albuquerque and become an Albuquerque low. Now, the track is a little further to the south, probably 50 miles than versus what we were thinking yesterday. So that'll still push a lot of heavy precip and upslope precip through the mountains of Colorado, but the whole thing kind of shifts a little bit to the south. I still think that keeps the Sawatch, and remember I talked about the Sawatch kind of being one of the bullseyes. I think that's still the case today, even with the shift, but it does take a little bit of the precip away from the Front Range high peaks. And then what's behind it? You can see some energy up here. That's all headed into Canada. That will still send a cold front down through Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, New Mexico, but it's not as pronounced as what it looked like yesterday. So that has weakened as far as the forecast goes. All right, let me take you to this. I showed you this chart yesterday for Cottonwood Pass. Today we're going to look at Monarch Pass, so the very southern end of the Sawatch. And basically what this is relative humidity. This is a vertical slice through the atmosphere. You can see we're going from drier initially, and you read the timeline from right to left. So it's opposite of what you would normally expect. It's right to left on this. But the green is your relative humidity, and notice just a wall of it hits this afternoon, tonight, and Sunday morning, and then the atmosphere dries out with the oranges returning after the storm. And then there's another little area of moisture, but it's kind of elevated. Notice there's not a lot of moisture at the lower levels with that Canadian front as it comes through. So it's a little bit weaker as the forecast shows right now. Now, this is the freezing level, wet bulb freezing level. So this is in feet, 1,000 feet. So you're looking at the chart. Most of them, and this is Sunday morning, early Sunday morning, most of the mountains have a freezing level of about 10,000 feet, maybe 10,500. Some cases it may slip down below 10,000 to like 9,000 or 9,500, but 10 is a good average. Now the asterisk, look at Denver in the Front Range. You see the blues? That's about an 8,500 foot freezing level. So potentially, and I'm of course forecasting snow on Pikes Peak, but it's possible on some of the very higher terrain through the foothills and then running down over the Palmer Divide that we could see a rain-snow mix in some of those areas and temps in the 30s. That's kind of the bottom line. A lot of temps in the 30s in those blue areas. So kind of interesting. Let me show you how this plays out in time. Here's the forecast radar and satellite. So there it is by 5:30 this afternoon. Rain is green, mix is pink, blue is snow. The low is coming in, beginning to develop. It throws a lot of precip across the mountains and also down into New Mexico, but very high freezing levels. So rain-snow line down in New Mexico. Okay. Here we go by Sunday morning. You've got the turn, the changeover all the way down to potentially 10,000, maybe 9,500 feet in Colorado. You can see where a lot of the blue is. Still rain in Denver, but a lot of the big rain emphasis has shifted to the south towards the Springs and also Pueblo. I still expect rain, probably a half an inch to maybe 3/4 of an inch in Denver, but we're not talking the inch and a half amounts that were possible yesterday. So the little bit of a shift in the track. Okay, then the low breaks. By the time we get to Sunday afternoon, it moves away. Here comes that little Canadian front sliding down, and you can see just a little bit of green streaking down through. It's definitely weaker. That moves away, drops down through New Mexico and away, and then we kind of are in a wait and see pattern. Everything's going to head up into parts of BC and Canada. That's where the storm track's going to run through late next week. This is Thursday, 9/26. There's 9/27. Some snow up in parts of BC. And there is Saturday. Everything's running, and you can see some snow through interior BC as well through Saturday. And then that front kind of runs down through the northern tier, Wyoming, kind of clips northeast Colorado. And as a low pressure, it begins to move away by the time we get into Monday of next week. So that's the way it shakes out. As far as snowfall, super high res stuff right here from the WRF. This is all the way down to 2 kilometer resolution. So on this, when you see the red pockets, that's 10 inches. And you can see a little bit of that red over the top of the Sangre de Cristos, over the Sawatch, and potentially over the Mosquito. But there isn't as much red as we were looking at yesterday in this forecast. Again, a very high resolution forecast, and all this snow is above 10,000, 11,000, 12,000 feet. The best accumulations on the 13ers and the 14ers. So the yellow shading is about 7 to 8 inches of accumulation. So wherever you see the yellows, that's a little bit of the Elks, that's the remainder of the Sawatch, and then kind of running up through potentially a little bit of yellow up on the Continental Divide, up around some of the higher peaks around Loveland Ski Area, Berthoud Pass, Indian Peaks, and then running up towards Longs Peak and Cameron Pass. And then everything else is less. When you drop down below 10,000, I mean significantly less accumulation. 1 or 2 inches, in most of those places, it's just too warm. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this Saturday morning update on the storm system that will be developing later today in Colorado. I appreciate you guys tuning in here. Take care and have a great day.